Tuesday, February 19th, and we'll call this regular city council meeting to order. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Deb.
Rodney.
Here.
Jessica. Here. Don.
Here.
Kathy. Here. Brad.
Here. Entertain a motion to approve today's agenda.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Brad. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney.
Yes.
Jessica. Yes. Don.
Yes.
Kathy. Yes. Brad.
Yes.
Motion carried. Across the mayor's desk, I'd just like to thank Waverly Espy. She's our videographer today. And that's all I have unless the council has anything else that they would like to share. Okay, hearing none, we'll move to update from the city administrator.
Just a quick update here as well, reminder on summer jobs that we have open, that we're currently advertising for. So they include the manager and assistant manager positions for the aquatic center, as well as a number of lifeguard positions and cashiers for the aquatic center and the concessions as well, and then umpires for youth, softball and baseball. So a lot of opportunities to work for the city this summer if anyone's interested in the aquatic center or softball, baseball.
Thank you. We'll move to approval of the consent agenda, and that includes approving the minutes from our February 3rd work session and our regular city council meeting, approving the bills to be paid this cycle, approve a Class C retail alcohol license for Billy Joe's, and approve the department reports and the minutes of the various boards and commissions that have met since our last meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Don, second from Kathy. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney.
Yes.
Jessica. Yes. Don.
Yes.
Kathy. Yes. Brad.
Yes. Motion carried. We'll move to old business agenda item number 9, and that's a resolution concerning the library exterior improvements.
So this was tabled at the last meeting, this resolution. This bid opening for the library's renovation project was held at the end of January. The city received 3 bids with Kingland Construction, out of Forest City being the low bid. And the base bid as well as being the low bid on with the 2 alternatives, number 1 and 2, with that ultimately with both those deducts, number coming at $646,000, which was more than what the architect's estimate had been. The library board has had a number of meetings with the project architect and the architect with Kingland Construction, looking at some efficiencies there to find, to get that number down even further, which there's been a number of viable options identified. And so would, at this point, at the last library board meeting, they went ahead and would recommend to approve awarding the construction contract. The library does currently have the capital funds enough to cover that $646,000, but the library board intends to, based on the preliminary numbers discussed with the contractor and the architect, to get that final construction number down to around $610,000. But those those change orders and final numbers would come after we approve this contract for the base amount. So the recommendation tonight would be to accept the bid and award the construction contract to Kingland Construction for $646,000, while the library board continues to negotiate additional deduct alternatives from that, but to award based on that base bid amount tonight.
So construction then would move forward, or when was the timeframe again?
Yep, so we would, I guess the start date might vary some, I believe it was going to be in May, but the substantial completion date is October 1st.
And we told them that they could start as soon as they're ready.
I think the only thing that, and this should be able to get figured out before it would make an impact, but looking at some of the material alternatives on like the different brick specs, on kind of the final decision on which kind of product is used, depending on what the lead time is in for it. Maybe, that might push things a little bit, but yeah, I would expect as soon as it kind of warms up, that they'd get going, but like I said, substantial completion would be October 1st.
Library board's all comfortable moving forward, as you said, then I make a motion to approve the construction bid by Kinlan Construction.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Brad. Any other discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Brad?
Yes.
Motion carried. Under new business, agenda item number 10, this is a resolution pertaining to the release of a mortgage.
This was for a housing loan, and I was with the city that, from back in 2017, which has been satisfied. So this resolution acknowledges that and then authorizes the release of the mortgage used to secure that loan.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Don. Any discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes. Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Brad?
Yes.
Motion carried, and thank you for that repayment. Agenda item number 11 is to approve a pay application for the wastewater treatment facility improvement project.
So this item number 11, and then following item number 12, we have Emma Nolberg from WHKS, one of the project engineers on the wastewater treatment project, joining us by conference call to be able to answer any questions. So feel free to direct anything to her. But this item here is pay application number 9. Is for $1,324,293.92. It does include down payment for some equipment that is beginning to be manufactured. I don't know if you want to maybe provide a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, for sure. This is a little bit higher than the past few pay requests that you've seen, and that is because it's becoming more typical for some of our major suppliers to request down payments at the 30% point or 30% of the overall cost. And for some of those pieces of equipment that are, in the $800,000 range, a down payment of that size does make a significant impact. So that's why it's showing up higher tonight than you've seen in the past.
With that pay app, the insurance documentation provided, materials and work done today, as well as the performance bond still protects the city in the event that something will go really sideways.
All that was figured in, we knew we were gonna have to have the equipment built in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
It's like what we do with the
Timing.
like with the splash pad, where I think that one, they put 25% down once they start manufacturing it. It's not uncommon, but different enough where, typically we don't pay for things until they're actually on site or installed. But yeah, given the cost and complexity of some of these items, it's becoming more and more common that you're getting paid incrementally as they make progress.
anything else about that? Pay app, different than, it's all approved and,
Nope.
Everybody's comfortable?
Okay.
Okay.
Make a motion then we approve the pay application for, pay app 9.
Second.
Motion from Rodney, second from Jessica. Any other discussion? Roll please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Brad?
Yes. Motion carried. And agenda item number 12, this is the final agenda item on our published agenda. This is to approve a change order for the wastewater treatment plant facility.
This change order includes 5 different elements. So I'll just, one kind of particular note, where it comes to some over excavation with some unexpected soils that were found on site. So rather than we try to convey it, this is why we asked Emma to join to kind of explain that. So Emma, if you maybe just want to go ahead and kind of walk through the elements of this change order.
Yeah, so this does include a few items. We've kind of been taking a few of the more minor ones up so that we wouldn't be coming, every month or two to bring a minor item to your attention. So that's why we have so many items on the change order. They've been tracking for months. The major one though is this over excavation and backfill for the observation ditch. While we did do soil borings prior to design, we can't perfectly map how it looks underground with soil boring. So when the contractor was excavating, we did encounter a pretty deep clay pocket underneath the area where the observation ditch structure is going to be. And because of the structural integrity of that ditch, we don't want clay for a certain amount of depth underneath it. It creates concerns for freeze-thaw cycles that could really damage the ditch later down the road. So the contractor was directed to over-excavate and dig out that clay and then backfill in the good sandy soils that we were wanting. And just because of the nature of those quantities, it ends up being a fairly larger change order item. So that item ended up being $74,212.12. And then along with that, that did a 6 additional time for the contractor as well. So there was a 2-week period that was added to the project schedule due to unexpected soil conditions. And then I can run through the more minor items here as well. There's 2 that are on here because they are needed in order to kind of keep things functioning at the plant during this work. So one of them was installation of temporary sludge drying beds. We ripped out the drying bed that Mark had been using and he needed somewhere to dump his back truck. So they installed a temporary one for that, and that was almost a $12,000 change item. And then the other one was item B. We installed an emergency bypass hose at the wet well. There was some piping that was disturbed during construction that had to be disturbed in order for new stuff to get installed. And while we had a bypass pump plan in place, adding in this bypass hose will make things run a lot more smoothly in case of an emergency, and just potentially divert any disaster if something were to go wrong at the wet well during construction, if there was to be electrical loss and the pump shut down, something along that nature. The other one was more of a safety item. We replaced all of the grating around the final clarifiers after noting that their condition was not good, and so we ended up replacing all of that existing grating, and that is something that will last for the next 20 to 30 years. So it wasn't included in the initial project scope, and we found that it was necessary. So, and then the very last item is going back quite a ways. I'm sure you all don't want to think too much about the flood events from last May and June, but we did want to get that documented and confirmed in writing that everybody's in agreement about this. But the south portion of the plant was pretty flooded for 6 weeks back when we were going to begin the project. And the south portion is where the oxidation ditch is being installed, so they weren't able to do any work for the first 6 weeks, and that pushed the project back. So I wanted to document that here, primarily because we do have a compliance schedule with the CNR, and we've been in communication with them, and they are pretty understanding about acts that are outside of our control. But I wanted to document that that has shifted the project schedule a little bit. So while we were initially having an intermittent deadline to have the activation ditch up and running by October 1st, 2025, we are now pushing that back to December 1st based on the two different time delays from both the weather and also from the soils. So overall total on this change order of $94,990, and that brings the 3 change orders to date to $163,866.
I will just note on the, with the delay, before we can even get started, so the DNR has been aware of that, as it was happening. It was just also with the summer that we had, it's like, well, why change order then, let's, if there's future delays as well. And so now that we're kind of through that, getting it documented that, the contractor wasn't able to work those days. And so, we have confidence that the DNR will recognize that in terms of our compliance schedule and pushing that back. And then that temporary piping, like Emma said, we had a temporary pumping plan in place, but this was kind of a way to, in case we had to utilize that, to make sure we were as ready to go as possible. And that's piping, a flexible hose that we're going to be able to keep around and utilize afterwards with our newer pumps. So it's materials that will be handy to have, but we basically have that already set up. So in the event where we lose power, or something happens that we have to do emergency bypass pumping, all we have to do is tie up the pump and turn it on, as opposed to snaking a hose, getting that installed, and then setting up a pump. So it really just makes it ready to go. And then, the big item being the over excavation, that just being one of those of tested here, we tested here, but right in the middle where we happen to not test, it was the same on either side of that. And it just kind of was a matter of how much material ended up being a very large clay pocket that really wasn't an option in terms of, it had to go away in order to be light materials underneath. So we didn't see that oxidation ditch get compromised over the years.
That change order was $163,000. Is that what?
The net change order is,
It's all 3 together.
Yeah, that's all
Oh,
3
yeah,
combined.
yeah, that's right.
The specific one was 95,000
Yeah.
approximately.
Okay.
Yeah. Motion to approve the change order.
Second. Motion from Rodney, second from Brad. Any other discussion? Vote please, Deb.
Rodney?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes. Don?
Yes.
Kathy? Yes. Brad?
yes.
Motion carried. It is 5:22, and we're at the end of our agenda, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn today's city council meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Emma.
Thank you guys.